Hour 2 live in Los Angeles. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Fox Sports Radio. We're on FS1. Joy Taylor is joining me as we have a lively hour. Colin right, Colin wrong in a couple of minutes. Peter King, Matt Barnes joining us. Joy, how are you today on a Monday?
I'm great. What a start to the Super Bowl week, huh?
Here we go. Big Anthony Davis, Lakers. By the way, just giving you an update on the story. We'll talk more about it this hour. In September, Anthony Davis, a star for the Pelicans, signed with Clutch Sports. They represent LeBron. Check. Second part of this is tell everybody you're not re-signing with New Orleans. Check. He did that today. So that's where we are. And with that, let's do it. We do it every Monday. Colin right, Colin wrong.
Where Colin was right.
This is the Anthony Davis thing. We told you in September we created the LeBron meter because at that moment it was understood that Anthony Davis was somehow, some way, going to figure out a way to move to Los Angeles. Anthony Davis also said back in September, it's not about money, it's about legacy and winning. So this is something, I almost feel guilty taking this as a right because it's so obvious. People are going to freak out this morning. This is terrible for the NBA, but increasingly in the NBA, legends, all-time talents like Durant, LeBron, and Anthony Davis want to win games, not just make a bunch of money because they're already making a ton of money. So we told you this was going to happen. It's happening. And this morning, a little bit of a bombshell where Anthony Davis came out and said, I want out of New Orleans. It's not about money. I want to win. And so it begins.
Where Colin was wrong.
I've been critical of Baker Mayfield, but a story dropped last week by Seth Wickersham at the other place detailing the utter dysfunction in the locker room and the organization in the franchise with the Cleveland Browns. And Baker Mayfield should not only win Rookie of the Year, he should win Therapist of the Year. Listen, I've said before, I think he's going to be a good player. I don't see him as transformational like a Andrew Luck or an Aaron Rodgers. But man, egos everywhere in the building. A coaching change. Haley and Hugh Jackson, porn in the building. Oh, good hell, it was just a disaster. And Baker's chutzpah and his energy and his sort of chip on his shoulder was clearly a huge component to make sure this puppy didn't completely derail during the season. So props to him.
Where Colin was right.
Listen, I've been saying this for years. Russell Wilson is the most under-respected player, quarterback of my lifetime. The second best fourth quarter ranking in the QBR in the history of the league is Russell Wilson. Yesterday, he was the only quarterback for the NFC that could do anything. I mean, when you put him up against Trubisky and Dak, did you see the gap in talent? Did you see it? I mean, Russell Wilson, people fall in love with flashes of brilliance. And Russell Wilson will give you some of that too. But for 6 years, mostly with mediocre receivers, a hit-and-miss running game, and a bad O-line, this guy wins games, wins close ones, and gets his team to the playoffs. And yesterday, just the gap between him and the other NFC quarterbacks. For the record, he wasn't initially a Pro Bowler. Despite the year he had, which was great, he didn't initially get to this game. It had to be other guys stepping aside for him to get in, which continues why the Pro Bowl's a mess.
Where Colin was wrong.
I thought that bad call in the Saints-Rams game would blow over, after a couple days. We're 8 days removed. There's lawsuits. There's billboards. There's conspiracy theories. It's T-shirts. It's everybody's talking about it, including us. I mean, people forget that in 2009, Favre and the Vikings played the Saints. Saints got to the Super Bowl. One of the worst calls that year was the Saints hitting Favre low, him throwing a pick, Saints getting the ball, and there was no call, and the NFL admitted, it was kind of a bad call.
Colin, prepare for the rest of your life with this call. It wasn't social media at the level it is right now. This is going to be played over and over again for the rest of eternity.
It's embarrassing.
It just is. It's what's going to happen.
All right.
Where Colin was right.
We told you Russell Westbrook would age poorly. Guards that are hyper-athletic and have to drive to the basket to shoot because they can't score, because they can't shoot, age poorly in this league. Paul George is now officially, easily the best player on the team. They're on a 5-game winning streak. He's on fire, shooting 54% on threes. Paul George is now the guy that gets the ball in the fourth quarter. Paul George is now the guy they want to have the ball the coaches dial up plays for in the fourth quarter. Westbrook yesterday, what a shock, 5 for 20. His plus-minus was -11, the worst on the entire roster. Russell Westbrook has been replaced, is aging poorly. I still think Paul George, who is in MVP consideration, I'm not sure Westbrook should even be considered an all-star, but what is happening is what we thought would happen, is the hyper-athletic point guard who can't shoot, like all hyper-athletic point guards that can't shoot, would age poorly. And the gap now between Paul George and Westbrook is growing by the week.
Where Colin was right?
Well, we told you what the players in the NFL would be rooting for the Rams because of the free agent aggressiveness, and the trades that the Rams did is good for players. And Le'Veon Bell last week was the first player to acknowledge via Twitter, hey, this Rams thing is the way to do it. We were a little ahead of this. We said, just don't kid yourself. This is the way players want it to work. You get drafted, you go to a place, and if they don't respect you, they don't pay you what they should, or it doesn't go well, you go on the market. But for years and years in the NFL, the bad teams went into free agency. But the Eagles and the Rams last 2 years have gone big into free agency and trades, and it has paid off. By the way, Amari Cooper to the Cowboys paid off. So Le'Veon Bell acknowledged what we talked about for the last couple of weeks. The Rams story is really a great, almost NBA-level model for NFL stars. And Le'Veon Bell said, yep, this is it, folks. This is the way it should be done.
Where Colin was wrong.
You know, John Goulet, I have always defended the coach you hate, Jason Garrett of the Cowboys. But yesterday in an all-star game with no tackling allowed, he scored 7 points, and they didn't score until the fourth. And Jason Garrett was the coach, and he has the creativity of a paperweight. And maybe Scott Linehan wasn't the only problem because this was awful. I know it rained and stuff, but it rains all the time. And that NFC performance under Jason Garrett, 7 points, all-star game where you can't mostly tackle, was debilitating. It was really, really bad.
Where Colin was right?
Oh, John Wall got hurt. He's out for the year. The Wizards are better without him. Again. John Wall left for the year. They're 9-6 without him. They were 10 games under 500 with him. That's because nobody likes John Wall. His teammates don't like him. His coaches don't like him. They'd love to trade him. By the way, you never see John Wall hanging out with the other stars in the NBA. He's a doesn't-get-it guy. He's a kind of sort of committed guy. The better player on this team has been for years Bradley Beal. Great body, totally committed, high basketball IQ. People around the league like him. Bradley Beal is and should be the franchise guy here. People want to play with Bradley Beal. The Wizards, once again, are better without John Wall.
Where Colin was right?
Jeff Darlington, respected longtime NFL reporter, sat down with Tom Brady, and Tom said this.
Is there any chance that this is your last game? Zero.
Zero.
Say it. I don't want to just say
There's
it.
zero. Yeah,
Okay.
there's zero. I've said that for a long time. I feel like I'm asked that a lot, and I feel like I repeat the same answer, but no one wants to believe me.
Listen, the best I've seen Tom Brady play in 2 years was the Charger game. Drew Brees looked old in the last month. Brady's never looked better. And I will tell you this, if you believe the reports that Brady wanted Garoppolo out, and they did trade him, and if you believe the reports that Brady has a very close relationship with Bob Kraft, which I know to be true, why would he retire and leave the Patriots with no succession plan? That's not what you would do to somebody, Robert Kraft, who you have great admiration for. I know that Brady and Belichick don't always see eye to eye. But just think about it at this level. If they got rid of Garoppolo and Brady wanted him out to some degree, and that's the stories that are out there, then Tom got his way. He wouldn't hose the owner who did him a solid 2 years later and leave the Patriots without a succession plan. It makes no sense. Not the least of all, Patriots have 12 draft picks, 4 of their 5 offensive linemen minimum return. And because they have no succession plan for Brady, they're going to draft to protect Tom Brady. There is absolutely zero chance he is retiring win or lose after this Super Bowl. Good to have you. And Peter King's right around the corner. He's in Atlanta for the Super Bowl. Very exciting times. Very exciting times. And again, once again, if you're just joining us today, Anthony Davis came out. Step one was signing with Clutch Sports, check. Step 2 was coming out and saying, I'm not staying in New Orleans. Step 3 is the Lakers trying to get this done before the end of the season because the Celtics can't trade for him because of NBA restrictions until the season's over. So the Lakers don't want to go toe-to-toe with Boston on asset for asset. They'd get crushed in this deal. So expect the Lakers to try to make a deal in the next 10 days. Not saying it's going to happen, but I think they'll overpay to appease LeBron, to get it done, to get him in the building. And then at the end of the season, they got a bunch of one-year contracts that'll move. They'll go out and get a third player because I think they're going to have to include Kyle Kuzma, according to reports, in this deal. Peter King around the corner. We're all ready for the spring and summer months. Now, by the way, I've never seen it rain harder